Very good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sachin Vankalas. I'm the general manager of Lux Flag. I have 15 minutes to interview, a little bit out of the box, since this morning we had presentation on how finance industry is getting into sustainable finance, getting into concerned about climate change. And now I have a little bit out of the box interview where I have Martina Holbach, who is a climate finance campaigner at Greenpeace International, Greenpeace Luxembourg, which is part of Greenpeace International. What are we trying to do here with Greenpeace? So Greenpeace is an international environmental organization, a non-governmental organization which has been active since 1971. It is in 55 different countries. What it does, probably you have seen them everywhere, on the train station, on the financial place, in the shops, everywhere almost. Greenpeace, through its awareness programs, research, education, or even in some cases protests, tries to raise awareness around environmental issues or climate issues in particular since last almost 50 years or so. Well, my first question is, you have been doing this for 50 years. That's a long time. In some cases, the way you did this, particularly protests, are not always liked by everybody. There have been situations where, I remember at least once, where 100 Nobel Prize laureates questioned the way Greenpeace did its protests around particularly GMOs. So, active on the topic for 50 years, what have you achieved and why are you here still?
Well, good afternoon also from my side. It's a really pleasure to be here today and to talk about the advances that we had in our climate campaign since, well, not 50 years, but 30 years.
You were created in 1971, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right, but the climate campaign was not our first campaigns that we had. We started intensively working on climate protection in the late 80s. So it's about 30 years that we are working on that. And I mean, if I'm looking back where we are coming from, when I started at Greenpeace in '88, everybody was not aware about the issue of climate change. In fact, most people were questioning the fact that man is changing the climate. People were questioning that man is destroying the ozone layer. So we have since then, however, achieved quite a bit, not only in getting political policies being implemented, having political processes in the context of the climate convention, but also I think we have always been challenged, well, if climate change is made by man, what can we do? And can we phase out the fossil fuels to support our energy supplies? And I think this is also a major achievement, not only of Greenpeace, but I think the whole climate and anti-nuclear movement, that today we can say that renewable energy is cost competitive towards fossil fuels. So here we are. I think we have achieved a lot on the policy side. The fact that we have today a Paris Agreement was a hard fight, but it's of course not going enough. I mean, if we are continuing in a business as usual, we will disrupt our societies and our economies, and so therefore the time that we still have to keep temperature increase below 1.5 degrees is running out very shortly, and we need really immediate action, and everybody, all hands on board to implement what is necessary from a scientific point of view, and of course there we need each and everybody.
Right. So if I summarize, main issue is around temperature, and the reasoning for all that temperature or global warming in simple sense is the contributors of that is all of us. We as humans, our industries, our work, our businesses as such. Now, coming back to Luxembourg, we are in a country where sustainability or sustainable finance is not really new for us. Just 2 months ago, Luxembourg was ranked second worldwide by Environmental Performance Index as second most sustainable country. Just a week ago, Luxembourg launched its first sustainable bond. We have a finance minister who takes every single opportunity to remind us what sustainability or sustainable finance is, how it is important to us. We have a regulator which understands the need and knows the nitty-gritty details of this sector and is implementing and preparing for the future, which will be then for all of us, particularly on the regulatory reporting side. We have a public sector where a number of initiatives have been launched, such as International Climate Finance Accelerator, which helps newcomers or new joiners in the finance industry to create, let's say, climate-related investment products. We have LuxFlag, which let's say distinguishes those products who claim to be sustainable or climate-friendly to those who are there. We have a Luxembourg EIB platform where we finance such type of projects. So I could just keep counting on how many projects we as Luxembourg Financial Place have been launching for last decade or so, with an aim to promote more, let's say, climate oriented finance, sustainability oriented finance as such towards that. And as an NGO which has been active for such a long time and which understands, of course, the needs on what needs to be done in the future, what are your recommendations for the financial place of Luxembourg, and what should we doing more, of course not forgetting what we have done so far?
Well, I mean, of course, we are felicitating the Luxembourg government and Luxembourg finance sector for the initiatives to promote sustainable finance. I think this is really the way to go. However, today, as we see it as Greenpeace, the volume of sustainably managed assets here in Luxembourg is only a very small fraction of the overall asset universe. And if we look at 95% of the assets being managed here in Luxembourg, and given that we do not have official numbers, we have been doing a calculation or a rough back-of-the-envelope estimation about the carbon footprint of the Luxembourg investment fund sector, for example. And we came to the result that the financed emissions from the Luxembourg investment sector are conservatively speaking about 30 to 40 times higher than the national greenhouse gas emissions of Luxembourg. So we see a real potential here for Luxembourg to intervene. I think it's the biggest role for the Luxembourg climate policy to also drive climate-friendly investments in not only in the sustainably managed assets, but in the overall asset management universe. And I mean, it's not only about the climate. I mean, it's also about preventing systemic risks which are being related to climate change. We know today, or we see it every day, the disruption which is taking place, which is linked to the impacts of climate change, temperature rise, reduced food production, destruction of all kinds of sort, huge fires in Australia, and now in California we have had the warmest September in history. So, I mean, this all will impact our societies, it will impact infrastructures, and it will impact also the assets which are under management. There are estimations that if we continue on a business as usual scenario, the cost of not acting will be around $43 trillion, which is roughly 30% of the globally manageable assets. So it means we are risking to lose a lot of value, a lot of assets. So, and in fact, especially for a country like Luxembourg, where more than a third of the GDP is being related to the finance sector, this could also create systemic risk. And we believe that Luxembourg has all interest in order to limit these systemic risks, to address also the financed emissions of the overall investment industry, and not only taking care of the sustainable investment industry, because after all we think it will not deliver fast enough, given that we only have very short time to address climate change.
So if I understand correctly, the work which we need to do is more on the, if you're saying that the carbon emissions of the financial place are about 30% of the national average, meaning
not 30%, 30 times higher.
30 times higher. That's a tremendous number. But does that mean that the work which needs to be done is more on the resource efficiency level of the financial place, or is it something to do with the products which we offer? Because as you know, Luxembourg is a cross-border destination or cross-border product hub. So is it more towards resource efficiency of our place? And if so, how? What are the ways we could do that?
I mean, there are two things. On one hand, I think Luxembourg also has to clean up its own funds. For example, we have been talking a lot in the recent years about fossil fuel investments of the Luxembourg Pension Fund, which is the sovereign fund, and which is not, in fact, despite saying that they invest according to a sustainable investment policy, is increasing year after year their fossil fuel emissions, and especially the fund, the Fond de Compensation, shows a lot of what's lacking here. I think a lot is lacking about the analysis of the climate-related financial risks. So I think what we are asking for, not as Greenpeace here in Luxembourg, but globally as Greenpeace, that the finance industry as a whole needs to analyze the climate-related financial risks and also needs to address how they will align their investments according to the objectives of the Paris Agreement, so that we not only have a climate-friendly investment universe, but also a universe which is heading for the future, which is favoring those companies which are pushing forward the transition of our societies to a low-carbon society, net zero carbon society. So this is something which we really which really needs to happen. And while we see a lot of engagement of the Luxembourg government regarding sustainable finance promotion, we do not see a lot of action when it comes to addressing the brown assets in the investment industry here in Luxembourg. And I really hope that this debate today will help to raise the awareness about the carbon intensity of the industry here in Luxembourg, and that we definitely need to disclose the risks, disclose the risk, and find ways to align the investments with the Paris Agreement. And I think it's not only for the benefit of the climate, but after all also for the benefit of this industry and the country.
Of course, I would like to develop that on more on the actions to be taken and a lot to be done. Interesting ideas proposed. Not to forget, we have a European Action Plan coming up with the SFDR, Sustainable Finance Disclosures, which were presented earlier. We have DCFD, the Climate Finance Related Disclosures, where multiple number of actors from the financial place are already reporting. So I would certainly have developed further on concrete actions, and again give a little bit feedback from the financial side also, that I absolutely do not disagree with the fact that a lot has to be done, but I also disagree with the fact that nothing has been done. A lot has been done, a lot will be done, and we are being forced with the regulation, of course, to go for the future. We are running out of time, but just last 30-second remark, we as a financial professionals, what can we do for climate individually?
Well, I mean, as I said, everybody of us can do a lot on a personal level to reduce the carbon footprint and the consumption of resources. But I think as you are here as professionals, I think it would be great if you could raise this debate in your organization, discuss if the investments you are doing are really aligned with the objectives of the Paris Agreement. I mean, also I think in sustainable finance, we know that also sustainability does not necessarily mean climate that is adapted to the Paris agreements. So I think a lot of awareness raising needs to be done, and it would be marvelous if you could take this message back to your organizations and discuss it. And of course, if you would like to discuss it with us, we would be most happy to do so.
Right. Taking message back to our offices, looking at our businesses, restructuring them, and not forget reporting them. That's what we need to do. Thank you very much. Thank you, Martina.
Thank you very much.
And next panel.